So Jay Harris was one of the big offensive standouts from the spring game. He looked just fantastic running the football. He caught a pass out of the backfield, I think, as well. And that led to this question via the subtext community. Given Noah Whittington is coming off an injury and the first part of the season is significantly favorable, do you see Jay Harris pushing up the depth chart permanently, assuming Noah rests for those first few games? What would Jay have to show for you to think he could become the permanent number 2 back with Jordan James being number 1? Jay Harris showed promise during the spring game. Appreciate you and go Ducks. So I think Harris is going to have a role in 2024. I just don't know how big it is going to be. And when you have a full assortment of running backs, Dan Lanning has demonstrated, and certainly this will be the first chance for Rashad Samples to kind of put his own spin on how he likes to use different players and different packages and such, and how creative they get. One thing I liked in the spring game was they brought 3-man backfields back into the fold. I thought those worked great. In 2022, they'd put Whittington and Sean Dollars back there and run, a sweep right, sweep left with one of them lead blocking for the other. I thought they had great success with those plays, and I would love to see him get back to it. Maybe Harris is a guy you work into the fold there. He's so big that he could serve as a lead blocker, but we've seen Jayden Limar serve as a lead blocker. He did that in the Fiesta Bowl for Bucky Irving. He had that great play where he runs wide and he pancakes 2 guys on the same play, and Irving ran for, I think, a first down on like a 3rd and 8 situation there. So, and you're dominating a team when you're running for a first down on 3rd and 8. Anyway, in 2022, Jordan James, who was the number 3 back, and Sean Dollars, who was the number 4 back, they combined for 90 carries in 22 combined games played. That's about 4 carries per game for someone other than the top 2 guys. So that's why I say even if Whittington is fully healthy, there's going to be a role. Now, health is not a guarantee when you're coming off that sort of injury. I don't think Whittington is going to be held back because of the caliber opponents in the non-conference slate. Like against Idaho, yeah, Limar and Harris are going to get a ton of touches because Oregon should be up 56-3 at the half. You know what I mean? Like Idaho was a good FCS team last year, but Oregon should be able to just get anybody and everybody touches. We should see Dante Moore. We should see Austin Novosad. It should feel a little bit like the spring game. Like you should get to see a little bit of everybody and see young guys in real game situations there. But I think in those first couple of games, yeah, Idaho is one where Oregon just kind of walk over them. But Boise State and Oregon State, look, I'm going to predict Oregon to win those games. They should win those games. How many times do we have to get tripped up by Boise State and Oregon State before people take them seriously? And look, Oregon State has been through the ringer this year. Their roster is worse than last year. And Oregon, of course, at Autzen won that game in blowout fashion, 31-7. And it wouldn't even have been that close. I don't think if Camden Lewis could have hit a field goal to make it a 17-0 game. That really shifted the tide in momentum in that one. And Oregon still allowed just the 1 touchdown. And Oregon State does not have as talented of a roster. They've got a new head coach, and they're downgrading at quarterback. And DJU was just all right, but still, I don't think Oregon hasn't won in Corvallis since 2018. I hope and pray and think that changes this fall, but I don't think all 3 games are an opportunity to just kind of throw guys into the game, see what happens. I think that's the Idaho game. The other 2, especially Boise. Boise brought in Malachi Nelson, the USC former 5-star recruit, to play quarterback this year. They've got Ashton Genty back at running back. Spencer Danielson's their head coach after winning the Mountain West last year, taking over for our old friend Andy Avalos. So I don't think either of those games are ones that can be taken super lightly there, but I think your top 2 guys on the depth chart are solidly Jordan James, Noah Whittington. And there will be an opportunity for a 3rd guy to emerge. I would lean towards Harris, frankly, over Jayden Limar to be the 3rd back, depending on the situation. Because I look at Jayden Limar and I see a lot of Sean Dollars, right? Come in a pass catching situation or, run routes out of the backfield, take the ball on sweeps. Is he an every down back? We don't really know. I think Jayden Limar is like a little bit thicker version of Travis Dye. Jay Harris could be a short yardage specialist. They just don't make running backs that are 6'2 and 215 or 6'1", whatever. He's big. He's a big dude. And we saw that on display in the spring game. He's running guys over left and right. He's hard to move backwards, and that could be an opportunity for him to develop into a Jordan James 2022 or 2019 Cyrus Abibi-Likio, short yardage, change of pace sort of back in there. But, what would Jay have to show to surpass Noah Whittington on the depth chart? Man, you'd have to average 8 to 10 yards a carry, because we know what Noah Whittington can do. I think everyone has kind of forgotten about him and how good he is. And look, I love Jordan James. I think that's probably RB1 going into this fall. I don't think Whittington is that far behind him. I think it's closer to a split backfield than a true number 1, number 2 back, because Whittington's really good. Assuming he comes off that injury fully healthy, his lateral movement, acceleration, and just bowling ball way to run through a defense is excellent. He is really good. And I don't know that there's anything Jay Harris could show me, unless he's just literally impossible to tackle in games every time he gets the ball. It's hard to match Whittington's vision, lateral movement, and acceleration. I think Harris could maybe get to that level. Can you surpass it? I don't think so. I don't think so. But if they want to have a short yardage guy, yeah, I can see Harris on the field. And look, I like that Limar and Harris are the guys waiting in the wings, because if Whittington, re-aggravates that leg, or if Jordan James gets hurt, this is a violent position. Running backs get hurt all the time. I would feel pretty great about Oregon's running back situation, which is not something you can always say after an injury. But that's where we were at last year, where Bucky was the number 1, Whittington was the number 2, James was the number 3. And Whittington went down, and look, I felt bad for him, of course, because you never want to see a guy go down with that sort of injury. I didn't flinch at it, though, from a season projection standpoint. I never felt like there was going to be a huge drop-off. And if Whittington or James were to get hurt, I feel like they'd be okay. And whether it's Jayden Limar or Jay Harris, I think the running back room would still be really solid. And I think that the other thing, too, with this injury to Noah Whittington, you look at those first few games as an opportunity to get him back into game shape, not an opportunity to rest him for Big Ten play for the UCLA and Michigan State games that will follow those 3 non-conference affairs. I think that's the way the coaching staff will look at it, and I think that's the way that they should look at it, frankly. So good question, though. Good question, though, on Jay Harris.